Well, it's portaling season, and a portaling we shall go.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Well, I was expecting a lot of portal activity, and basically it's all happening as we're going on the air here in terms of all of it. So I'm a little shell-shocked. So let's trudge forward and see if we have any players left by the end of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I make this little template up, and so what we were going to talk about Holman Wiggins at first because he is portaling to Texas A&M. We'll talk about that. But then Shaz Preston got in the portal yesterday. That's not unexpected. I mean, I love the kid. I think he's great, but it just didn't work. Seth McLaughlin in the portal. We could see that coming. Terrence Ferguson now in the portal. I couldn't even change my template fast enough to get the people that are portaling. Let's start with Holman Wiggins, though, Jimmy, the wide receivers coach. He is moving on to Texas A&M. I'm okay with this. I would have been okay if he stayed. This is not a catastrophe either way. So I think that, hey, more power to him. It gives Alabama a chance, frankly, to potentially upgrade in terms of somebody who can develop players a little more. I know he's a great recruiter, at least on paper, but I think you really judge a recruiter on, do you get them there and do they stay there and get better? If they end up all leaving from various classes, like have happened with some of Wiggins' recruits, maybe you're not the recruiter we thought.
Well, thus far, it's not like any of these guys that have left have been really good elsewhere thus far. So I'm not sure Alabama's lost that has been extremely hurtful so far. Obviously, that's going to change over time. I think, like you said initially, I agree with the idea that, first of all, Holman Wiggins wants to advance in the profession. All these coaches want to advance in the profession. They're not just, okay, I'm a wide receiver coach for the next 50 years. They want to climb. And I think Holman probably felt like his climbing at Alabama was over, and Texas A&M was going to offer him a co-OC opportunity. I think for him, climbing means either offensive coordinator or head coach. And if A&M's given him an OC opportunity, a co-OC opportunity, I'm sure that was hard for him to turn down. He's done a good job. I think he's been a good recruiter. I think he's been a good football coach. I think it's kind of crazy that, if we don't, so we don't give him credit for Smith and Ruggs and that group, but it's his fault that JoJo Earl wasn't good. I mean, I'm not really sure how we get to the point where coaches don't get any credit when their kids are good. They only get blame when some of their kids aren't good. But I think Holman did a good job. I also believe he's replaceable. And by that, I mean, my expectation is that Alabama will sign a like or better coach. So it's a loss, but it's not a crippling loss. And I guess he feels he's advancing in the profession by accepting this opportunity at A&M.
Yeah. And again, I think it's a loss, but not a crippling loss. I think you said that perfectly. It just is what it is. And I think it gives Alabama an opportunity to go get somebody else. It's fine. Somebody else that maybe, and by the way, for those, I've had some people ask about this, how it affects Ryan Williams. Tim Watts has addressed this. You've addressed this. Joseph Hastings has addressed this. It should not affect Ryan Williams much at all. I think as long as T-Rob is at Alabama and his contract is up February 29th, it is a leap year. So as long as he's there, I think that all will be well.
Correct. And I would look for, I'm assuming there's no way for me to know this today, but my assumption is that T-Rob's going to be given a a substantial raise and extension. That's what I'm assuming is going to happen.
Yeah, I would be shocked if it were anything else other than that. Now, just quickly to close out this first segment, Shaz Preston in the portal. Like Shaz Preston a lot. ESPN loved him when he was coming out of high school, loved him. And it just never materialized for whatever reason. Wish him the best. Where do you think he ends up, Jimmy?
I mean, the only guess I have is Mississippi State because his brother's there. His brother's a starting defensive back at Mississippi State. And Mississippi State's hired a new coach that's going to chunk the ball all over the place and throw it around a lot. So that makes a ton of sense to me, assuming Mississippi State wants him. And we don't know that yet. Shaz is obviously a good prospect. I've heard nothing but good things about the kid since he's been there. It's just that Alabama plays 6 or 7 wide receivers as part of the first team, 6 or 7 guys. And then they redshirted 2 or 3 guys. I think those guys that are in the middle, hey, I wasn't playing with the first team, but I wasn't redshirting either. Those are the ones that often look for a new home. And that's what Shaz is doing here. He wasn't beating out those first team guys. And now Alabama's bringing in a guy like Ryan Williams, who would almost certainly leapfrog Shaz. So I get why he left. Doesn't mean he's not a good player or that he won't be a good player at his new place, wherever he chooses.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to the whole Holman Wiggins thing. I mean, another receiver not on the roster anymore. And I mean, part of this is also, I mean, maybe it's not all on Wiggins because maybe there's a group evaluation, people target a guy, and then they say, Wiggins, you go get him. Well, if Wiggins goes and gets him, but the evaluation was off, is that really on Wiggins? I don't know. I would say though that potentially the development of some of these guys or lack thereof could certainly be on Wiggins.
Could be. I mean, Shaz was very highly thought of, hasn't panned out yet. Doesn't mean that he won't at some point. But it hasn't happened yet. You're never going to bat 1,000. That's for sure. Not when it comes to this. Not when it comes to this type work. Let's see where Shaz goes. I think another thing we shouldn't rule out when I said Mississippi State is my first guess. My second guess would be Texas A&M. I won't be stunned to see him follow Coach Wiggins to Texas A&M. That often happens in these coaching changes. He may transfer down, meaning to a smaller school, a smaller program where he's more certain to play. He's from Louisiana, so maybe we shouldn't rule out Lafayette, Louisiana, Monroe, or Tulane. We shouldn't rule out those places or going home to LSU. So we'll see with him. Again, some of this attrition needed to happen. I'm not telling anyone that this is bad news. I think this is a good news. Alabama needs a spot. Shaz will have a better opportunity somewhere else.
All right, Jimmy, when we come back, we're going to talk about 2 other guys in the portal. One you kind of expected, one I'm not so sure we knew was going to happen. Right now, though, I need to tell everybody about LinkedIn. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What is the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they're going to apply. Okay, so 2 more additions to the portal from the Alabama side, one being Seth McLaughlin. As somebody has already pointed out, they hope it's not a snap decision. I know it feels kind of bad, but at the same time, it's not a bad joke. It's not a bad joke. I didn't make it up. I'm just repeating. But I was just on a Montgomery radio station. By the way, if anybody listens to Doug Amos's show on Wednesday. I screwed up a little bit earlier today because I said we were talking about Daniel Hill and Zay Mincy, and I said, yeah, I think Alabama could very well get both of them this afternoon. They actually play in the All-American game on Saturday. I just got my All-American games mixed up. So sorry about that. If anybody listens, I screwed that up. Doug, I'm sorry about that. It's New Year's for everybody. I'm still recovering from the national championship game. Anywho, so Seth McLaughlin in the portal. You could certainly see this coming. And when I was on the show with Doug earlier today, I was saying, hey, I sort of hope he sticks it out because I think he'd be a fantastic redemption story. But in the end, boy, let me tell you something, Jimmy. Look, you and I have said some things just even on this podcast where people may give us some heck. And I'm like, I got to take a break from Twitter for like at least a day so that, this can sort of wash away. If you're Seth McLaughlin and you are consensusly the villain of the national championship game, I mean, and you're a young kid that their lives depend on social media. Boy, I can't imagine what all he's been through. So I certainly don't blame him one iota for leaving him. I wish him the best. At the same time, I feel about this the way I do about Holman Wiggins. Maybe Alabama can upgrade.
Yeah, I'm real curious as to what the upgrade plan is. Here's where I'm going to be different than a lot of the fans. I want to know what the upgrade plan is before I'm celebrating anything here, and I'm not really, and I don't mean to imply I'm celebrating anything at all. I think it's real unfortunate. I'm guessing, knowing Seth the way I think we know Seth, I bet he's crushed that he's not finishing his career at Alabama. He's a Gump. Through and through, loves Alabama. I'm sure he really wanted to finish, but now just cannot. It's a toxic situation now, and he's got to move on. My guess is it will be elite programs that recruit him. Maybe even his home state Georgia. I wouldn't rule that out. Their center's moving on to the NFL. There's other programs. I suspect we will see him at a big time program. He's a very good player. Once the snap is completed, he becomes a good player. That's why he was Alabama's starting center for 2 years. He played against elite defensive tackles consistently. He actually, I believe, graded out okay against Michigan, other than the snaps, which is a lot like saying, well, other than that, how'd you like to play, Miss President Lincoln? The snaps were sort of the story of the game, but he is a good player, and I'm real interested as to the backup plan, because if you ask me, in the 10 minutes after we learned that Seth McLaughlin had decided to enter the portal, I was saying in those 10 minutes that Alabama's likely replacement for Seth is Terrence Ferguson. Now he's in the portal. That only was a 10. My projection of T. Ferg being the center going forward lasted all of 10 minutes. He's in the portal. So, yeah, I'm real curious as to what Alabama's plan is. As of right now, until I hear that Alabama's interested in a center in the portal, I'm going to assume the center is going to be James Brockermeyer.
This is being reported by Tony Sakulis that Alabama center Seth McLaughlin has just met with Nick Saban to inform him he'll be entering the transfer portal. He has given his paperwork to Alabama to do so. Seth met with Saban face-to-face to inform him that NIL had nothing to do with his decision. And I'll tell you something, that means a lot to me that he went face-to-face and said this. I'm sure this was a very difficult decision for him. I know this kid has caught all kind of heck online, and I feel sorry for him. I mean, there are some people out there like, hey, you're getting paid now, you're NIL, you're getting a stipend, you're getting whatever, you get what you get. I got to tell you, I feel bad for the kid. I don't think he wanted to snap some of those snaps badly, and it happens. It's unfortunate, but this was I think we need to remember in the end, this was a team loss to Michigan, and I wish Seth the best. If he goes to Georgia and succeeds, I will definitely be pulling for him.
Yeah. Seth is a first-rate kid, one of the best kids on the team in terms of just overall character. I mean, he's an Eagle Scout type kid. He's a Gump. He loves Alabama, loves Nick Saban, and I'm sure he wanted to make it clear to Coach Saban that he's not leaving because someone's offering a big check. It's just I'm sure Seth feels it's just too toxic and best for him. Uh, that story implies that it was not Alabama that said get out, like so many fans think happens, but doesn't really happen. This is Seth's decision. So we'll see. My number one thing is it's always about Alabama. Who's the center going to be? And as of this exact moment, I'm going to say James Brockermeyer, but literally 15 minutes ago, I was saying Terrence Ferguson, and Ferguson is in the portal himself.
Yep. And Terrence Ferguson leaving is it's just one of those things. I mean, we're probably going to see some more surprises. I don't know who in the world they will be,
of course,
but we'll see some more surprises.
And it would be a guess. I'm going to find all these things out eventually, and then we'll talk about it if we can here. But I'm wondering, I do think a decent theory is this. If Ferg knew Seth was likely to leave and Ferg knew he was likely to be the starting center, maybe he doesn't want to play center. I mean, it can be that simple. My guess is Ferguson, wherever he ends up, and it's probably going to be a big school. I bet he plays guard wherever he ends up and not center.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. And look, I mean, I assume Alabama may even be portal searching themselves for a center.
Could be. Now, here's the thing. Most of the time, now every time you say something like this, someone's going to point out, yeah, but what about this? What about this? Yeah, those are exceptions to the rule. The rule is this: if you're starting where you're at, then you're not getting in the portal. Now, Seth had a unique circumstance. That's why Alabama's starting center is in the portal. But most of the time, a kid that's in the portal is not starting, and he wants to go somewhere where he will then have the opportunity to start. It's kind of hard to imagine a kid is not starting somewhere else, but is going to be an upgrade at center for Alabama. That's hard to imagine, but it can happen. For instance, and it could be that, hey, somebody's starting in a lesser school and they want to prove themselves at a bigger school. That could happen, as we saw with Tyler Steen, who was a high success story at Alabama. So Alabama has signed a transfer center in Landon Dickerson. That worked out really well. So I'm not saying Alabama can't find a guy. I'm just saying it's not as simple as, well, the center left. Let's see what centers are in the portal and pick which one of these 10 guys is going to make us a better football team. It doesn't work anything like that at all.
All right, Jimmy, we are going to talk about this Under Armour All-American game coming up. And I've got listed on here Under Armour All-American game potential commits because I'd screwed this template up and forgot about that. So I'm just going to leave it like it is because you know what? I'm going to own this mistake right here in front of everybody because I'm a mistake owner. People don't understand too when we are doing this podcast, and I feel bad now. Like I do feel bad that I went on a radio show and like screwed up. And I'm also screwed up this template. But what people don't understand is you and I know you've got another job with On3, which is sort of related to this, but I have another job, obviously. And I'm actually driving right after this podcast to go to Louisiana to deliver a fountain for my work. And you were stopped in parts unknown. And
literally,
I mean, sometimes we get a little mixed up. We're sorry. Somebody actually said, I think a couple of podcasts ago, I said Michigan's offensive line won the Joe Moore. I think they won it the previous year. I screwed that up. It was actually Washington. Yeah, it was Washington that won it. And yeah, and somebody was like, in the comments, well, if you have a podcast, you shouldn't screw that up. I'm like, I barely have a podcast, and I screw things up at all my jobs.
So it's impossible to get every sentence factually correct, and it's easy to get them. And Michigan won the Joe Moore Award in 21 and 22, and they were a finalist in 2023, and may have won it if the guard didn't get hurt late. But no, when I hear Michigan wins the Joe Moore Award, I'm like, well, yeah, they did, because they win it all the time. This year's did not. But again, their guard got hurt. That might have been the difference.
Joe Moore is going to win the Michigan Award if they keep winning it like this. Whoever the heck Joe Moore is. Also, Jimmy, okay.
I hope he's a center, and I hope he can play at Alabama next year. We're having a bit of a center emergency, frankly. I'm trying to stay calm on the air, but we're having a bit of a center emergency.
It is. Somebody actually on Twitter also said, I love y'all's podcast because Luke is always on the edge of jumping off the cliff, and Jimmy always brings us back. I'm like, right now it feels like Jimmy's right there on the edge with me. We're holding hands going 1, 2, and 3.
Sometimes anyway. I'm on the cliff myself. And again, we come on the air. We're literally coming on the air and we find out Terrence Ferguson's in the portal. And I'm coming on the air to tell you guys that nobody needs to panic. I have a lot of confidence in Terrence Ferguson. That was the plan. And now he's gone. So yeah. So now I'm a little I'm not paying. Look, I like Brockermeyer. Tell you a couple other interesting possibilities. Rock Montgomery, who we just redshirted. Hey, redshirt freshmen are ready all the time. He's practiced some at center already, and a guy who hasn't practiced at center but could make the transition. And I know that the staff is high on this guy. Is Olas Alanin, the Norwegian who has spent this past year redshirting at guard. He's a guy that it won't shock me if they try to make Olas a center this spring. That wouldn't surprise me either. And they're very high on him.
Okay, so you do have the All-American game, Under Armour All-American game with Caden Jones, Jalen Mbakwe, Kevin Riley, and Ryan Williams today. So while I've got listed up there,
is Kevin playing? I'm not sure Kevin Riley's going to play.
He might not be. He's listed on there.
I don't know if he's on the roster and was invited to play. I'm not sure he showed up. But honestly, I've been so consumed with getting information about the portal. I'm not sure. But I don't believe Kevin Riley's there.
Well, and on top of that, it should be noted, Justin Okoronkwo from Germany didn't get all his visa stuff handled in time. So he won't be playing in the All-American game this weekend, which sucks because this was going to be our opportunity to see the dude.
Yeah, he needed the coaching, and he sort of is the rare player that needed this week. But no, he'll be at Alabama January 9th, which is next Tuesday in the start of classes.
I would have thought being in Germany, he'd be a little bit more efficient than that to get your visa under control. They're known for their German efficiency, right? I mean,
I don't watch much news, but I hear immigration's sort of an issue right now. So that's what I hear.
Okay.
I'm not surprised. It would be a little complicated right now.
So today, if let's assume Kevin Riley is not playing, which again, fine. You do have Caden Jones. This is another guy that I think is sort of one of the mystery recruits. I mean, he's pretty highly rated, top 150, top 200 guy. And he's gotten some good reports. He's not made any of the quote unquote alpha lists. Meanwhile, one cool thing from the Under Armour All-American game is Jalen Mbakwe and Ryan Williams were 1 and 2 in the fastest man competition, with Jalen Mbakwe edging out Ryan Williams. So I'm interested to see how those two guys do today. I'm actually going to be on the road and just have the game on my phone and listening to it. I'm looking forward to it. But is there anything else from this game that jumps out at you?
Not really. I just want to point out to people that are watching, that are going to watch, or, maybe when you listen to this, you've already watched it. It's just amazing that Ryan Williams is a junior playing in this game. I mean, that he's a junior playing in an all-star game with the best seniors in all of the country. And I bet he more than holds his own. So it's just a testament to just how crazy talented that kid is. And I'm just so hopeful that he sticks with his commitment and ends up playing for Alabama. I hate it that, he is a human being. He's a kid. And gosh, these kids that get as famous as he is and are the subjects of these intense recruiting battles, they get pulled in a million different directions, and they hear some awful things on social media. And it's such an unfortunate part of all this.
Yeah, it definitely is. But hey, it's part of the world we live in, right, Jimmy? I mean, it's something we all got to deal with. I'll tell you something. I did have this thought today. I do wonder, and this is for another podcast, but I do wonder at what point because the landscape of college football is changing so fast, and some things are getting really, really, really cruel, and social media certainly adds to that, and just the fanaticism of it all. And look, it's so funny when Alabama makes the college football playoff. I mean, that we knew this is not one of Saban's best teams. We all think this is one of Saban's best coaching jobs. They make the playoff, they lose in 7 points in overtime on 4th and 3 with a chance to tie it against number one team. And everybody's like, fire everybody, send everybody to the guillotine. This is awful. At what point do you think some pretty regular fans are going to take a step back and go, all right, I'm going to back away from college football until we figure out what this is again? Because I know it's always been a fanatical thing, but at what point do we say everything is changing so fast and furious? I'm not even sure what sport I'm watching anymore. And maybe we all need to back away until we find out, hey, let's see what this sport actually is going to evolve to, because it's changing so rapidly now. It's like a chameleon in a rainbow. You can't figure out which color to go to. That was a great.
I have no doubt, without knowing, and I don't know yet, but I have no doubt that social media backlash and social media comments and stuff is a reason Seth has left Alabama. I have no doubt that that's true. Before I know that it's true and confirmed by people inside the program. I think it's just real unfortunate. There's nothing that can be done to change it, but that's just the world we live in now, where the normal everyday walk-in Joe has a platform and a microphone and a speaker, and everyone speaks very loudly, and yeah, it's a new world. And hey, one guy we haven't mentioned, by the way, Miles Kitselman, also in the portal, backup tight end, again, a lot like Shaz Preston, good player. Actually started a game at Alabama. The first game he ever dressed out to play at Alabama, he started that day for Alabama because Cam Latu was hurt, and Kitselman started in his place. Actually caught a couple balls that day. But Miles was below the dudes who were playing and above the dudes who were redshirting. So he's kind of in that no man's land of, hey, I'm not redshirting, but also I'm not playing. So those are the guys that move on. And we'll see where he ends up. I tell you, Kansas State might be a good spot for him because back home, and they play that physical brand of football. And he's a Y. He's an inline blocking tight end, and appreciate his contributions to Alabama too. But I'm sure he would like to go somewhere and play.
This just breaking from Tim Watts on your side at Bama Online, hearing positive news on Ty Simpson staying at Alabama after a meeting with Nick Saban today. As of now, we expect him to stay. Wow. I would think a lot of people thought he was definitely going to be in the portal. And I'm for it, Jimmy. I'm for it. We're going to have to lose a quarterback or two, though. I mean, and fill in the blank yourself. If Ty Simpson stays, Julian Sain's coming in, you don't think Lonergan's going anywhere, and Jalen Milroe's returning, fill in the blank where you want to, people. But I don't want to say the names out loud, but just interesting to me. I'm for it because I do like Ty Simpson. I'll tell you something. I think Ty Simpson's a gump in a good way.
I do know this. Ty enjoys the heck out of Alabama. He enjoys the heck out of Alabama. And I know advice we give at QB Country to kids that I've heard, and this makes so much sense. I mean, you go to college to develop into the best player you can be. And my first question for Ty, in terms of, hey, he comes to me for advice, which would be really dumb, but it comes to me for advice. My first question for him is this: are you getting better? Are you a better player today than you were last week? And are you a better player last week than you were the week before? Are you developing as a quarterback at Alabama because of the coaching you're getting in the program you're in? If he is happy and satisfied with he's improving and developing his game where he's at, then there's no real reason to leave. Because some people say, no, you leave to play. Well, if you left him, he could go to William and Mary. I'm sure they'd take him. Is that going to develop him? Is he going to become the best quarterback he can be because he's starting at William and Mary? Now, that's an extreme example, but it makes the point I'm making, which is Are you satisfied with how your game is progressing? If he is, there's no reason to leave. Also, this, Jalen Milroe is Alabama's starting quarterback, and he's going to be Alabama's starting quarterback. Day one of spring practice, who's QB1? Jalen Milroe. We want to take bets right now. Who's QB1 versus Western Kentucky? You'd be a fool to take anyone but Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe. But does that mean that Jalen has the job in perpetuity, or Jalen has the job as long as he's there? No, Jalen Hurts lost the job at Alabama. So what I'm saying is, Ty's number 2. The competition continues. There will always be competition. No one is promised anything.
Yeah. I have very mixed emotions about all the things you just said, because I kind of wish, it's so funny. Again, I did say this point, which I think is a good point on the radio show earlier today, that, all of a sudden people have sort of forgotten Jalen Milroe is the guy who completed the gravedigger pass on 4th and 31. He's the guy who used his legs to seal the deal against Georgia for the SEC title game. He's the guy that had 4 rushing touchdowns against LSU and, in a sense, outdueled Jalen Daniels. He's the guy that brought Alabama back from down 20-7 at the half against Tennessee. The bad taste from this Michigan game is going to linger. And that's what I really, really hate about this. I wish things had been different. I certainly wish Alabama had won, but I definitely wish Alabama had definitely wish it had won. But I really also wish that, look, if Alabama's going to lose by 7 points in overtime, I wish Jalen Milroe had thrown for 285 and rushed for 80 and not had a fumble.
Right.
All of a sudden, people are like, hey, he's the Heisman frontrunner. Now people are like, please, God, Ty Simpson stay so that we can have a competition again. That's kind of scary to me, Jimmy. And we can't get into it because we got to cut it short. But
we're only going to be talking about it for 8 months here.
Exactly. I wish we had.
There'll be 8 months of it right here.
I wish we had time to discuss the Ty Simpson, Julian Say, Dylan Larnigan, Jalen Milroe QB competition, but we have only got about 8 months, so it's going to be difficult. We'll
There's
work
no
it.
doubt in my mind. Jalen Milroe is QB1 and 100% has earned it and deserves it. And I'm excited about an improved Milroe. I'm excited about all that. But it's also the reality that I think Ty Simpson's going to be a really good quarterback. And Jalen has to play well to keep his job, just like the other 21 players that start have to play well to keep their job. Not even Caleb Downs is promised the starting job in 2024 and 2025. He's not promised it.
You will not slander Caleb Downs on my podcast, sir.
You barely have a podcast. We heard it earlier in the show.
On my barely a podcast, sir. That you own half of. Okay. All right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.